Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of D.E.I. Deathwatch, the show where we chronicle the downfall and the doubling down of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm your host, Scribelight, and we're trying something different today. StreamYard today premiered a new feature where I can stream in both landscape and vertical versions of this show. I didn't know how that was going to work. I was curious. And so I said, sure. I clicked the button. And what it did was it created two different links to the same show with nothing in either link to tell you what was going to be landscape or what was going to be vertical. So for all I know, I have two different audiences to two different streams of the same stuff right now. This might be the only time I do this because it's a little confusing for me. It makes the UI of the stream different, and I don't know how that's going to work out. So I apologize for any confusion or any frustration this might cause. I am a guinea pig here. So if you're seeing me vertically right now and you're not on your smartphone, then go to the other link. If you're seeing me landscape and you are on your smartphone and want to see me vertically for some reason, go to the other link. This will probably be a one-time thing, so apologies. The other thing that I don't know is that since there's two streams of the same thing happening right now, does that mean that I have two different chats that I need to pay attention to, but I can't because I only have so many windows and eyes? And B, what might this do to the overall quality of the broadcast, or is it going to cause some problems as we proceed? I don't know. I'm as much a member of this journey as you are today. So hopefully I'll still be able to do a decent broadcast for you. But anyway, before we get into today's topics, who's joining me on this beautiful Monday morning, well, afternoon, I suppose. The Alexander. Good afternoon. Walter Tomaszewski, hello. Scribe, my cats are waiting for you to break out into song. Excerpts from The Sound of Music, produced by Jeffrey Katzenberg. Feline Groovy, Simon and Garfield, and anything from Kat Benatar. Okay. The other thing is that apparently because I'm splitting, if I play a video clip, the people in the landscape version can't see it. It says it doesn't play it. So I might just have to avoid stingers overall rather than have just black screen moments. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to use this feature again. I don't think I am. Unless I decide to do something like a shorts stream. Or start recording shorts, then I can use the vertical thing and that'll make more sense for some people. I don't know. I apologize. I'm sorry. Seftus Wolf, hello. Advocatus Diaboli, hello. Adabisi, nice to see you. Who else is here? Blue-Eyed Scream, hello. Adam Nixon, nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Old Guy, hello. Keeverdam. I think Keeverdam must have posted this either far earlier or over on the other stream. Yeah, I'm never doing this again. Anyway, I'll have to add the link to the top of the chat here in a moment, guys. Anyway, Keeverdam, thank you so much for providing the link, even though I don't have access to it, apparently, because this silly setup. So, guys, I'm going to put at the top of the chat box in just a second here the link to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society donation page. So if you have the opportunity to donate, please do so. But even if you can't, come on. Yeah, there you go. All right. Even if you can't, if you can take a look at that and share it out on social media, that would be appreciated. Please donate to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. There's that. And apologies to those of you over in the vertical stream who can't see that either. This is an absolute mess. Never happening again. But thank you, Keeverdam, either way. Attack Alpaca, hello. Kiro Soldier, hello. Who else is here? Mike Savage, Blarg. Duck Dog, hello. And Unfair Ophelia, good afternoon. Somnamnul Nation, hello. The Blakester, good afternoon. Corbin Dallas, Lilu Multipass. The Vexorcist, good afternoon. Robert Pincus, hello. And Captain JPS, thank you so much for the Hiya Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox. And I'd play the clip, a stinger, as I usually would, except I don't know that it's going to work, so...
Wowie wow wow.
There you go. Dogcat Fox says, thank you, Captain JPS. Now go back over there with your friend. Yes, Dogcat Fox has a friend. He's still not ready to be premiered yet. I gotta do some work before he's ready for prime time. It's a very small thing, but I gotta get it done. Anybody else before I move on? Oh my gosh, so many people. Daryl Odell, good afternoon. Did I get you there? There we go. And I think that's everybody. If I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, if you're on the opposite stream, the vertical stream, and I can't even see you, apologies. But let's get this mess on its way, shall we? The show, as it is, must go on. Let's start off with an update from a story that we talked about last week. The Python Software Foundation. Now, if you recall, the Python Software Foundation rejected a $1.5 million federal grant because there were rules attached to that federal grant and its acceptance that said that basically you're not allowed to discriminate on the basis of race, sex, religion, and so on, or anything that might be falling underneath the umbrella of D.E.I. Well, of course, Python had a problem with this because they depend on diversity. The word diversity appears in their mission statement. They couldn't accept such a grant. They'd have to change their mission statement or something, or be breaking the law, or suffer, federal clawback or something. Anyway, Python Software Foundation gets a donor surge after rejecting anti-DEI federal grant. You mean a federal grant that just requires you to not be discriminatory and be a equal opportunity employer? I know, it's a crazy thing. Quote, the support from the Python community in response has been overwhelming, Seth Larson told me last week. As the Python Software Foundation's principal investigator for a $1.5 million grant National Science Foundation application, Larson had a front row seat for the multi-round, months-long vetting process and to everything that happened next. Ooh, how dramatic. Months-long vetting process. In short, the PSF turned the grant down after discovering new federal, quote, terms and conditions that would require them to end any programs promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, quote, during the term of this financial assistance award, unquote. But a flood of new donations followed, and the PSF vowed to explore other funding options while remaining steadfast to their organizational values. See, this is the thing about the story read last week. They never described the Python Foundation. They never described what programs or activities they were engaged in that would be in violation. They never got specific. It's just that it conflicts with our values. What do you mean? Quote, it was so maddening to have to turn down work that would benefit everyone, posted Lauren Crary, PSF Deputy Executive Director on Reddit. Quote, because they insisted on dictating what we do outside of the security project, unquote. I got news for you. Let's say that this grant had been extended to you 15 years ago. Oh, do you guys know what I'm going to say before I say it? I bet you do. Yeah. Can you imagine a scenario where you'd be required to, refrain from certain activities or have constraints put on your business practices with the acceptance of federal grant money? Say it with me. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Every federal contractor, every grant recipient falls within the strictures of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, specifically Title VI. So that was going to happen anyway. Even if they never mentioned DEI, that was going to happen anyway. Do you know how federal money works? Yet rejecting the grant created a surge in news coverage, thousands of upvotes on social media, and an upswell of donations. Well, good for them. Together, maybe that show of support forms a kind of collective answer, an example of how a community responds to a forceful outside attempt to challenge their culture. A forceful outside attempt of long-established federal restraint on the acceptance of federal money. I know, it's cray-cray. Let's see. By coming together. Oh, they came to... it's really about family. Support from Guido and thousands of others. Okay, Guido? Quote, I was one of the board members who voted to reject this funding. A unanimous but tough decision, wrote Simon Willison on his blog. I'm proud to serve on a board that can make difficult decisions like this. Okay. And Python's original creator, Guido van Rossum, even made his own post of support on X, formerly known as Twitter. Do we still have to say that? Support on X, formerly known as Twitter? Quote, if you haven't heard about this, kudos to the PSF for standing for its values, which are also my values. Oh, so you support institutionalized racism and sexism? Oh, okay. I mean, as long as you're being honest. The day of the announcement, the PSF received about 300 new donations, Query said, but then they kept coming. Oh. On Tuesday, October 8th, one Reddit user even complained their first try at donating was met with a timeout error, and Query responded that apparently, quote, our donation page got a little overwhelmed, unquote. Well, a fool and their money are soon parted. Query, who had also been the co-principal investigator on the withdrawn application, also acknowledged the supportive responses on Python's official discussion forum, writing, quote, we're very grateful for the community's support, which has been pouring in and has honestly been a little overwhelming, unquote. Okay, what specifically about your activities, programs, etc., do you feel is in conflict with the restrictions that were coming down with the grant? That's what I want to know. What are you guys up to that you think is DEI? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Or maybe it is or isn't legally questionable. But specifically, what do you guys do? Do you have any kind of hiring quotas? Do you have any special programs that differentiate on the basis of race? What do you guys do? I'm going to scroll past some more of the glad handing here, see if they actually talk about what they do. News coverage, LinkedIn, what happens next. I'm not seeing anything where they talk about, they're just talking about the results of the surge of donations and what they're up to next. Okay, so, I mean, they're completely within their right to withdraw their application for federal money. I'm not complaining about that. My question is, what was it about their current activities or programs that they thought were in danger of having this money clawed back if they accepted it? They don't say. I might have to look up and see if there's a diversity report from Python Software Foundation on what they've been up to the last couple of years. For those of you coming in late, I apologize if there's some confusion about the format in which you're watching this video. I'm trying out a new feature on StreamYard where it splits the stream into two different versions, one that is vertical for phones and one that is landscape for everybody else. It's causing some problems already. And unless there's some really compelling reason to otherwise, I'm never going to use this feature again. Unless it's one or the other. I don't think I'll do both. I don't even know why I do vertical. I know a lot of people do watch me on their phones, or try to. So if you are watching me on your phone, post a comment underneath the video. I might not see everything because I think there's two different live chats. Or let me know on the Discord server or on X, formerly known as Twitter. But all that being said, Abdicatus, they should have been getting the money this way all along and never have been taking taxpayer money anyways. Depending on what their programs or activities are, I don't know. And have they never accepted a federal grant or funding before? I don't know the history of the Python Software Foundation. Was this their first time in applying for a federal grant? Were they unaware that federal grants come with strictures on what you can and cannot do as a matter of course? But again, specifically, what about their activities or programs that they think would come into conflict with that restriction? Some emulation. Why doesn't X change its name to an unpronounceable symbol? I mean, that'd probably be copyrighted by infringement or something. You know, Prince's estate might come down, but who knows? Mark Fields, phone. Phone. Okay, so you guys use the phone. All right, so if you're seeing me in landscape on the phone, then the opposite link you can find on my YouTube page, I guess, will appear in vertical, if you want to try it. I mean, if everybody comes back to me and says, wow, that was a great thing you did, putting it in both formats, maybe I'll do it again, but I'm guessing not. Super chat. Oh, no. Okay. I didn't even think about that. If there's two different live chats going on, that means, as Mark is pointing out, that means that there are two separate silos of potential super chats that I am missing. Okay, guys, I apologize. Give me a second here and see if I can pull up the other stream's chat. Oh, boy. I got to find out which one of these is the vertical and which one is... Okay, which one is this? Okay, the top one is the landscape. The bottom one is the vertical. Yes. Okay, and now I got to pop out this chat. Oh my gosh, guys, I apologize. I have to have two different chat windows open. Okay, Mark Fields. Here's the problem, Mark. The super chat that you put into the vertical version does not appear on StreamYard for me to post on the screen. I dislike being a bug tester for StreamYard on this. If you're going to dual broadcast a stream, I don't know. So, Mark, thank you so much for the super chat. Positive vibes, good sir. Thank you, Mark, very much. Let me scroll up and make sure I didn't miss anybody else's. Okay. So, I've got both chat windows open now. I will try to keep my attention on either one or the other, but in the future, I'm just going to do it normal. So thank you, Mark, so much. I displayed if I could, but I'm not allowed to. So, the wonders of live television, everybody. Let's move on, shall we, to something like consequence for DEI from another educational institution. I'm still waiting for the private sector to really have to pay their fair share, so to speak. But let's talk about the Ivy League giant Cornell hands over $60 million, vows to scrap discriminatory DEI. Oh, great. Are they admitting to wrongdoing? And here's the other question. How much in federal money were they receiving normally before this? Was it less or more than $60 million? Because if they're just giving the government back money that we're just inevitably going to give back to them, is there much of a punishment? Let's find out. Cornell University will pay $60 million and invest heavily in agricultural research under a settlement with federal agencies over pending civil rights violations investigations. The agreement resolves pending investigations into the Ivy League school's admissions policies, and its handling of campus protests over the war in Gaza. All right, because the implied discrimination against Israeli students or Jewish students, thus hitting that whole religion prohibition. It requires Cornell to provide civil rights training and submit anonymized admissions data through 2028. Half of the $60 million goes directly to agricultural research programs. The remaining $30 million will be paid to the U.S. government over a 3-year period. How much in federal money has Cornell been receiving annually on average in the last 10 years? Again, is it more or less than $60 million? Duck Dog, thank you so much. If you're going to test bugs, probe gently first with your finger. Just don't force it on someone. Sage advice, Duck Dog. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Also, hello, Amy Williams. Good afternoon. And anybody else I missed that I can see here? I hope not. But yeah, so thank you, Duck Dog. Let's see. Quote, recipients of federal funding must fully adhere to federal civil rights laws and ensure that harmful DEI policies do not discriminate against students, Attorney General Pamela Bondi said in a Department of Justice news release. She praised Cornell for, quote, working towards this agreement. The university must distribute guidance from the Justice Department on unlawful discrimination to its faculty and staff. Cornell's president will certify compliance under penalty of perjury. In exchange, federal agencies will restore terminated grants amounting to how much? And treat Cornell as eligible for future funding. Up to how much? The government will also close its investigations into the university's admissions practices. See, like I said before, you really need to have monitoring for compliance, for at least a probationary period. You have to have somebody there overseeing things, because if they've been violating the law this whole time, then you might want to make sure they're going to adhere to it going forward. And make sure there's always somebody looking over their shoulder. And as I've said, create an IRS for DEI. You're going to be audited for compliance with federal civil rights laws. There's no reason why they can't have an audit for that kind of thing. Anyway, quote, the Trump administration has secured another transformative commitment from an Ivy League institution to end divisive DEI policies, said Education Secretary Linda McMahon. She claimed the reforms would help, quote, restore excellence to American higher education. I mean, fingers crossed, knock Formica, but I'll believe it when I see it. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the agreement, quote, strengthens protections for students against anti-Semitism and all other forms of discrimination, unquote. The deal requires Cornell to conduct annual campus climate surveys. Okay. To what end? Assistant Attorney General Harmeet K. Dillon called this settlement groundbreaking. She said it ensures, quote, applicants and students will receive fair and equal treatment as required by our civil rights laws, unquote. Well, they should have the entire time, which means if they haven't, why aren't you punishing the school more? The agricultural research funding aims to reduce production costs and boost efficiency for American farmers. Cornell must also comply with federal requests regarding foreign funding sources. Okay, were they not having to do that before? I mean, if the federal government comes in and says, hey, tell us where you get all your foreign money from, the college wasn't previously obligated to turn over that information? Cornell President Michael I. Kotlikoff issued a statement about the agreement, noting that the university, quote, has not been found in violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 in any of the investigations or compliance reviews of the university's programs, unquote. Was not being found in violation also part of the deal? See, there's a difference between saying we have not, I have not been discovered as being a repeat serial killer. That means I haven't been officially caught yet. It's a lot of difference saying that than saying we have not violated Title VI. We have not been found in violation. Pay attention to what is said. Pay attention to what is not said. Quote, the agreement explicitly recognizes Cornell's right to independently establish our policies and procedures, choose whom we hire and admit, and determine what we teach without intrusive government monitoring or approvals, so long as you're not violating Title VI or Title VII. But have you been? It reaffirms as well our continuing commitment to follow the law, protect everyone in our community from discrimination, and make admissions and hiring decisions based on merit. Principles to which we have already independently and publicly committed, the statement continued. Oh, word games. Don't you love word games? I love word games. I have to love word games. I was an English major. But let's see. Oh, Miranda Stone is here. Now, I don't know if you guys know about Miranda Stone. It's possible you don't. I forgot. It doesn't play the clips when I have this silly split stream thing set up. So you probably just saw, if I'm correct here, about 12 seconds of black screen. If you're watching in the landscape edition. If you're watching in the vertical edition, the vertical edition gets the videos. The stingers. Not the landscape edition. StreamYard. $435 a year. They got some bugs to figure out here, but they probably should have tested this out a bit more before releasing it to the wild. So, anyway. Hello, Miranda Stone. Santa Mutant 2099. Do you hang out with Spider-Man 2099 and Doom 2099? I didn't like Punisher 2099 too much. Spider-Man 2099 was pretty cool. Doom 2099 was kind of intriguing. Strangely enough, I never did buy Punisher 2099 back in the day. It just, if it's not Frank Castle and it was all, weird comic book cyberpunk, and it just didn't work. Anyway. Reminds me of Phone Edition. Yeah, I got two different things going on right now. I'm actually kind of surprised it's not interfering with the quality of the stream, as far as I know. If you guys start seeing, buffering or fuzziness or something, again, not that I'm going to use this option again in the future, but I've just out of morbid curiosity. And Morgan King is here. Hello, Morgan. But yeah, so there you go. You have Cornell not having been found in violation. How lucky. Let's move on to a city that is at the heart of so many controversies and things in the last several years, and the home of The Chop. Seattle. Also the home, if I'm not mistaken, of Microsoft. And we have a headline, Why DEI Isn't a Success Story at Seattle's Tech Companies. Do tell. And this comes from the Seattle Times. For Monica Cisneros, her decade of experience in the tech industry as a product marketing manager has come with bigotry tied to her Latina identity. Okay. I've said it before, and I will say it again. Bigotry is different than racism. What is bigotry? Bigotry is hating someone on the basis of their ideas or opinions. That's got nothing to do with your race or ethnicity. I blame George W. Bush for this, the soft bigotry of low expectations, which is a very cleverly worded phrase, but is incorrect in what it's referring to oftentimes. For a media publication to use the wrong word in some, never mind. It's my English major showing through again. Well, okay, I have an English degree. I actually have a degree. I wasn't just a major. It wasn't like I never completed it or something. Getting all sensitive about my credentials all of a sudden. Anyway, often it's subtle slights rooted in prejudice. Ooh, microaggressions? Colleagues ask the Texan where she's really from. Press X to doubt. Misogynistic coworkers have told her they don't like her female voice. Okay. And have decided not to include her in deals because of it. They've also completely ignored her. Now, this isn't me saying there aren't jerks in the world, but in this day and age, with HR, and in Seattle, of all places, HR in Seattle? Okay. Quote, it can go from microaggressions, indirect but bigoted affronts, I mean, it depends on the context in that case, like assuming that a Mexican-American colleague is an immigrant. Well, if you are a Mexican-American, then you are an immigrant. because Mexican is a nationality. It's not an ethnicity. Okay. Assuming that a Mexican-American colleague is an immigrant, quote, all the way to overt racism, which I have dealt with, says Cisneros, now a Seattle resident. Oh, now a Seattle, so this happened elsewhere? Oh, okay. Look, if you're born in America, you're an American. I don't know what else to tell you. The city is a global hub for the technology industry, with its innovative giants and startups celebrated for changing society. The tech sector generates billions upon billions in profits and employs over 274,000 in the Seattle area, according to the Computing Technology Industry Association, a trade group. Despite its successes, the industry has remained staggeringly white and male. Staggeringly white and male? Cue dramatic squirrel stinger that I would play, except that it'll just turn to a black screen for most of you watching. Dun, dun, dun! Despite its successes, the industry has remained staggeringly white and male. Now, with corporate giants cutting thousands of workers to make way for more spending on AI, waves of layoffs signal that the small gains made by women and some tech workers of color could be lost. Oh no, those artificial inflation of people into roles based on what they look like. Heaven forfend. Last year, across the state's tech workforce, only 3% of all tech roles were filled by black professionals, and only 5% were worked by Hispanics and Latinos, according to the Computing Technology Industry Association. Women account for 25% of the workforce. Okay. And? Quote, historically, I mean, that's the author, or the person being quoted talking, historically, I mean, the tech industry has been dominated by white male professionals, unquote, said Marcus Courtney, a Seattle-based public affairs consultant on the government, nonprofit, and business sectors, including the tech industry. Quote, it's always been a boys' club, unquote. Can you imagine why? Can you imagine why the large majority of the population in the tech sector, the computer engineering sector, has been male? Can you imagine why for a moment? Average inclination of men's interests. Personal choice. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, well, how would you solve for this problem? Oh, that's right, you have been trying with D.E.I. by just, press ganging women and people of different colors into places, whether they're ready for it or not, just so you can look good and not feel like you're racist. The tech sector has largely been shaped by homogenous hands until recent years. Yes, because every white man is the same. As we know, every white man has the same perspective on the world. They have the same ideas. They come up with the same innovations. Hell, you don't even need to have any other. You just need to hire one white man and you have an entire panoply of people at your fingertips with one guy. That's why no white men are ever in conflict with other white men. They're always right here. They're just, like this. I can't remember the last time I read an article from the Seattle Times, but it really feels like I'm reading an article from Seattle. Oh my gosh. Let's see. The tech sector has largely been shaped by homogenous hands until recent years, and those leaders have been reluctant to let go of the reins because they're racist and sexist. At Amazon, all 7 executive officers are white, and 6 are men. Oh no! Its 29-member senior team, or S-team, reflects more diversity, with 20 white men, 4 South Asian men, 3 white women, and 2 black women. At Microsoft, 5 of 7 executive officers are white and 4 are men. Okay, what's missing from technically these 2 paragraphs? What's missing from this? In describing the leadership teams of these companies, what's not mentioned? Names, actual identity, personal identifiers. All they're doing is a racial and gender audit. And this audit and their numbers are supposed to tell us something, that there's a problem. And what is the problem? Imagine if this language was flipped a little bit. What if it said, at Amazon, all 7 executive officers are black and 6 are women? What would they propose to be a solution if that were cited as a problem by someone? If some blog somewhere, on some fringe organization that didn't like people on the basis of their race or their gender, which is obviously just an alien concept these days, but let's say there was such a blog or some kind of publication out there that was underscoring the fact that a company was run by the wrong kind of people. What would the Seattle Times have to say about such an organization, do you think? Both Amazon and Microsoft have faced gender discrimination lawsuits in recent years, with Amazon employees arguing that women are underpaid and Microsoft workers alleging bias against women. And how did they arrive at those conclusions? Is it just looking at the population demographics of the company and assuming that the disparity equals an inequity? I'm just guessing. I don't know, but I'm just making a guess. Allegations against Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates of inappropriate conduct towards female colleagues have also come to light. Okay, now that's talking about an individual, and given Bill Gates' associations of the past, I could believe it. But you're not talking about an individual action, you're talking about a company-wide phenomena. And so do you have any proof that the company writ large has been doing this? Or are you just looking at statistical population demographics? In 2023, men held the overwhelming majority of positions in computer and information system management. Shocking. At around 72%, according to database IPUMS USA, which uses U.S. Census Bureau microdata. Oh, okay. 72% of the positions in computer and information system management are held by men. Okay. So, the remaining 28% are held by women. Okay. And Courtney said large tech employers in Washington have shut out women, Latinos, and the black community, especially from engineering and coding roles. Let me see if I get this right. Washington State, one of the bluest of blue states in the country, the home of CHOP, the home of the Summer of Love, has been actively, intentionally shutting out women, Latinos, and the black community from engineering and coding roles. Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, companies who I have covered extensively on this channel over the last 9 years, who have stated in no uncertain terms that they have DEI out the wazoo up until just recently. These companies operating in Washington State, they're being illegally discriminatory. Well, I mean, I'll grant you that they have been illegally discriminatory, but discriminatory against those demographics. The industry is even more competitive as of late, with Amazon recently laying off 14,000 corporate employees and Microsoft laying off more than 15,000 workers since May. That's all from AI integration and restructuring, isn't it? Some people who have made their careers in tech told the Seattle Times that the industry has gradually embraced racial and gender diversity as corporate leadership recognizes its business benefits, such as access to a broader talent pool. So, prior to diversity, they were being racist and sexist. But then when they stopped being racist and sexist and started accepting diversity, then they had a broader talent pool, except that the numbers show there's not enough women, Latinos, and black people in these industries. Okay. Cisneros, 32, isn't convinced. Do tell. As she watches companies step back from their approaches to diversity, equity, and inclusion by making cuts to diversity, equity, and inclusion roles and employee resource groups, ERGs, it leaves her feeling like those employers are disingenuous. They are. It was all a show. It was all a virtue signal. They thought that just by saying, oh, we're going to hire people first and foremost on the basis of what they look like is going to be good for the company. And then it turned out, no, it's not good for the company. Because if you just hire people on the basis of what they look like rather than what they can do, you end up in a deficit. A diversity deficit. Next section, a hostile environment. Ooh. Over the decades, Washington's tech industry has experienced highs and lows tied to gender and racial equity issues. Sure, okay. In the 1980s, quote, Seattle had some tech companies that were absolute leaders in gender issues, said Ed Lazowska, the Bill and Melinda Gates Chair Emeritus at the University of Washington. You'll forgive me if anybody associated with Bill Gates or the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which sponsored one of those math is racist organizations, doesn't hold a lot of water with me. But anyway, his example, Aldis Corp, a software company later bought by Adobe Systems, where many of UW's women graduates went to work. Okay. That wasn't the case for the rest of the sector. Okay. I hate to put it this way. You need to show me the proof. Show me the money. Where is your proof that these companies were being pointedly sexist or pointedly racist, and not just, oh, the population demographics of their workforce were this versus this, therefore discrimination. That's not how this works. That's not how it's ever worked. Prove that that is the cause. Implying it does nothing. Quote, tech companies had what came across as a hostile environment for women, Lazowska said. A hostile environment. Like how? How is it hostile? Because there were more boys there than girls? That becomes hostile? That included gender-based harassment, locker room talk, and workplace settings that Lazowska described as resembling, quote, a boys' college dorm room, unquote. Do you mean to tell me that men were being men? You can't say that, scribe. Boys will be boys isn't a defense. I'm not saying it's a defense. I'm saying it's an inevitability that men are going to behave differently amongst one another than they will around women. If you can believe it, men and women. And I'm sure that at the female majority companies, there wasn't any kind of hierarchy. There wasn't any kind of jealousy, any kind of culture of mean girls versus nice girls or anything like that. I'm sure that they were all just pretty princesses with halos and harps. But anyway, the industry was also exceedingly white, but soon made space for some Asian workers. In the aughts, oh, you jumped from the 1980s to the aughts. Okay. In the aughts, Chengliang Zhang, co-president of the Seattle chapter of nonprofit Chinese Institute of Engineers, stood out. Back then, there were far fewer Chinese engineers, said Zhang, 49. So, things changed over time, you mean? Okay. In the years since, quote, a significant change has taken place, he added. Okay. For other people of color, barriers remain. Well, why wouldn't there be barriers for Asians? I mean, they're not white. So, Arif Gersel was an undergraduate studying computer science at Alabama's Tuskegee University, a historically black university, in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Okay. He remembers speaking with a Microsoft recruiter on campus and noticing a photo of a black man among the company's promotional materials. Gersel said he wanted to connect with the man in the hopes of finding a mentor, because he's a racist. Oh, sorry. No, I added that last part there. It didn't say he saw a photo of this guy by name who had worked his way up and made a name for himself in the industry. No, he saw a guy of the right skin type. And that made him want to contact that guy. Because again, flip it around. Oh, I saw a picture of a white man that worked at that company. I want to talk to him. The recruiter told me, oh, sorry, he doesn't work at Microsoft. That's just a model we hired to be in the picture, Gersel said. Okay, well, that's disingenuous on Microsoft's part. That doesn't remove the ridiculousness of the speaker's story. He took an internship with Microsoft and worked there for almost 12 years. Why? But they didn't have a real black man. Gersel, now 47, went on to fill leadership roles at Salesforce, Netflix, and Google. Oh, so he wasn't barred from the tech industry, you say? Even though they used a model in promotional materials, somehow he got a job there, worked for over a decade, and then moved on to other major tech firms. Oh, okay. But as he rose through the ranks at major corporations, Gersel noticed fewer black colleagues surrounding him with every promotion. Today, as the founder of a tech-driven nonprofit focused on empowering people of African descent, Gersel is one of the few black leaders in Seattle's tech space. And after the 2008 recession and into the 2010s, the U.S. was swept with the realization that many people don't have access to tech jobs, said Jessica A. Lee, founder of Astute Strategies, a company that conducts inclusive economic strategy and research. Many people don't have access to tech jobs. Why? Is it education? Is it interest? No, it's racism and sexism, isn't it? Okay. Two social movements, Me Too, which decries sexual harassment and abuse around the world. Oh yeah, it decries it to the point of witch hunting people and causing such divisions between men and women that the people protesting started complaining that men wouldn't talk to them. And why? Because it was dangerous to. Because you didn't need evidence to destroy a man's life or reputation. You just needed a complaint. We're not going to talk about that, though, are we? And Black Lives Matter, a response to the 2013 acquittal of a Florida man who killed Trayvon Martin, a black teenager, sparked social change felt within the tech industry, Lee said. Yeah, you want to talk about Black Lives Matter and the embezzlement of $90 million over the last several years? You know, talk about Patrisse Cullors buying a $6 million mansion and employing most of her family and loved ones with gigantic paychecks for doing barely anything. Yeah, Me Too and Black Lives Matter are not feathers in your cap. Hate to tell you. Let's see. Spark social change within the tech industry. But professionals still say more needs to be done. What do you propose? Matthew J. Yazzie, 46, highlighted several obstacles for Native people trying to make it in the tech industry through lack of representation, though lack of representation rises to the top. Lack of representation. Okay, so are we in the if you can't see it, you can't be it mentality? Quote, the biggest hurdle that exists, just in general, is that there's no visibility of successful indigenous individuals in tech, said Yazzie, who is, I'm going to mispronounce this, D.E.I, and grew up in the Navajo Nation. He started at Google in 2004 and worked there for close to 7 years. There you are. There you are. For Native people, community is a rarity in the tech sector, Yazzie said. Instead, they find themselves in positions where they're forced to squash stereotypes and educate others. Such as what? Robin, and I'm going to mispronounce this too, Mexkey, a native technology activist in Portland, said remote flexibility was a game changer for indigenous people like herself. Okay, how visible are you when you're working remotely? What does it matter? Quote, for a lot of indigenous people, remote work wasn't just about convenience, it was access, said Maxkey, whose tribal heritage includes the Stockbridge-Munsee band of Mohicans. Working from home allows Native people to, quote, show up fully, unquote, without the added financial and emotional pressures that an office culture can create, she added. So, problem solved? While tech companies put money towards aesthetics and amenities, they weren't investing in diversity pipelines, mentorship programs, or career development for indigenous people, Maxkey said, which sends a clear message that appearances matter more than structural change. Or, and I know this is crazy, it may be the case that at least up to and through, say, the mid-2010s, many tech companies who were recipients of federal financial assistance may have been wary of setting up programs specifically aimed at people on the basis of their race or ethnicity. Because why? Say it with me. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Just one guess. Just one guess. How long does this go on for? Good grief. Okay, we're almost done. Almost done. Let's see. Fast forward to this year. Okay, 2025. We've gone from 2013 and Me Too and Black Lives Matter to... Actually, Me Too really came about 2017-ish with Harvey Weinstein. But anyway. President Donald Trump's administration has rejected DEI policies across federal and corporate entities nationwide. Oh, you're going to ignore everything that was happening in late 2022 up through Trump being reelected. Of course you are. Everybody does. Many of these policies were implemented in the wake of the 2020 murder of George Floyd. The 2020 death of George Floyd, a black man, by a white police officer, if a heart attack and drug overdose is a white police officer, in Minnesota, and the Me Too revelations against top tech leaders. Many of these policies were implemented in the wake of No. Most of these policies were in place before George Floyd. I have a few years worth of evidence to that effect on my channel right now. But anyway, an LGBTQ plus nonprofit leader declined to speak to the Times on record for the story, citing dangers currently faced by their community and concerns about being targeted. And that's as far as you're going to take it? Okay. Consequences of being your true, authentic self. Cisneros, the product marketing manager, found her first role in the tech industry at a software company, Tibco, through Las Comrades para las Americas, a Latina support network. Okay. After about 4 years with Tibco, she was recruited by Alteryx, another software company, in 2021. Okay. Alteryx went above and beyond to create an inclusive culture, she said, through its employee resource groups and well-trained human resources professionals. Okay, so you're still there, right? To build tech careers, people of color and women like Cisneros must overcome long odds. Everybody in the tech sector has to overcome long odds because everybody is replaceable, and especially with remote work these days. Okay, must overcome long odds, but the fight for equity and acceptance doesn't end once they're on the job. Do you mean to tell me that you continually have to show that you know what you're doing once you've gotten a job? And that as things change, you have to be able to adapt in a fast-moving industry like tech? That only applies to women and non-white people, huh? Okay. Cisneros said that throughout her career, she's been supported by managers, but, quote, you don't see a lot of Latino leaders out there, unquote. And how would you propose this be changed? She said sometimes. Oh, sorry. She said she sometimes found herself the only Latina in the room. Oh, man. Oh, man. In her Mexican-American community, people sometimes don't know that tech jobs exist, she said. In her Mexican-American community, people sometimes don't know that tech jobs exist, she said. For many young professionals who didn't attend esteemed high schools that supply prestigious universities, networking can be tough without alumni support. You know who that's also a problem for? Everyone! If I don't have any networking, if I'm not an alumni or my parents weren't alumni to something, I don't have entree to any of that stuff either. And you know what? I didn't. I was the first person in my family to complete 4-year college. You know how I got the jobs that I got? By applying for them. By showing that I could do what they were asking me to do. I'm in the tech sector. I'm not a coder. I'm not a software developer, but I'm in information technology. It's not what I went to school for, but it's what I found myself doing, and I just kept doing it and doing it as best as I can, and you just work. I didn't have any connections. I applied. In, at the time, was a creative way to my boss now of almost 20 years. I think I've told this story before. So the place I was working for previously was closing up shop and moving the entire offices way, way, way away because tax incentives and what else. And I was suddenly found like, okay, well, my job is going to disappear at the end of the year. I don't want to wait until, the holidays to try to find a job, because that's when everything was going to shut down roundabouts the end of December. And so I was like, okay, what are my limitations here? Well, I don't own a car and I don't drive. So wherever I'm going to go, it has to be within walking distance or reasonable bus distance or something. So I went on to Google Maps way back in the day, and I said, okay, I'm going to zero in on my where I was living at the time, and I said, I just typed in company into the search bar, and all these little map pips show up around that area as I'm zoomed in on the map. And so I kind of looked at what was about a 2 and 2.5 mile radius from where I was living, and I said, okay, I'm going to send my resume to, and I made a list of all the companies that looked like or were familiar to me or had to do with something that I at least had some passing interest or knowledge of. And I just made a list of all those companies. I wrote down their addresses. And I did one of two things. Either I applied online if there was some kind of big corporation and had a application process that way. Or I mailed my application if that's what they asked for. Or I physically went to the businesses that had storefronts or front-facing interaction with clients or customers and asked for an application. I did the legwork, I did the research, etc., etc., etc. And then one day I get a phone call, and it's this guy, and he's like, I just posted this job listing the other day. How did you find out about it? And I told him, I didn't. And then I explained to him my process for finding a job. And he thought that was clever. He thought it was a clever way to look for a job. And so he brought me in for an interview. And I've been there nearly 20 years. It's crazy, isn't it? Anyway, sorry. Sometimes you actually have to, you have to want it. You have to go after it. You have to find a way. You have to solve the problem for yourself and not expect somebody else to do it for you. Not networking, just I needed a change. I needed to do something, and I had a very limited amount of time in which to do it. Mommy and Daddy did not come down from on high to help me find a job. I had to do it all by my lonesome. That's life. Anyway. Adabisi, but did you do it while white? Okay, Adabisi, look at this. I'm not white. I'm translucent, okay? I'm like beyond. I look like a mole person most of the time. I don't know that I've seen the sun in 17 years. Yeah, anyway. But it's true. Thank you, Adabisi. I did do it while white, but I also did it mostly without them even knowing anything about me except my resume. Let's see. Even when tech jobs are clinched, the social aspects of work aren't open to all. Then don't be social. Just work. Just get a job. Earn money. Why does it have to be a social hour at work? I never made it a social hour at work. Quote, there's this thing about blending in. I don't think we should, Cisneros said. However, she added that there will be consequences of being your true, authentic self. What does that mean? What? Okay. This is the mentality that has been raised on the death of professional distance. This is a result of people who have been coddled into thinking that their real lives are as important all the time while at work. And they're not. Either you're doing your job or you're not. If you can't leave your real life at the door, then something else needs to be arranged. That's the long and the short. I don't know. Maybe this is an old-fashioned sensibility of mine, but short of a family emergency or some kind of, unavoidable catastrophe, when I went to the office, my real life was on pause until the workday was done. And then I could worry about and deal with all that stuff, because that is a professional mindset. Cisneros parted ways with Alteryx in 2024. Why? It was a welcoming, inclusive, authentic, belonging-ish company. Okay. She's currently the vice president of community for the Association of Latino Professionals for America's Seattle chapter, but said she's watching their programming shrink as funding, including corporate sponsorship, dries up. Okay. What if you were just the Association of Professionals? What if you got rid of the, ethnic requirement? For now, Cisneros is back on the job market in search of a workplace that aligns with who she is. Well, I thought Alteryx was paradise. Okay, I'm sorry. You don't build up a story around this central figure from the beginning of the article all the way to the end, and then play up the virtues and the benefits of a company that appreciates someone's authentic self and welcoming and ERGs and HR, and then they leave that company and you don't give us any explanation or inclination as to why. Why would you leave that? Did she leave it because she wanted to start this association? Okay. Let's see. Quote, I just want to do my job, she said. No, you don't. No, you don't want to just do your job. You want to be an activist. I just want to write emails. I don't want to talk with HR. Microsoft Philanthropies underwrites some Seattle Times journalism projects. The Times maintains editorial control over all its coverage. Yeah, but sure. But we'll play up. I mean, they did mention Bill Gates' issues a little bit. I just want to do my job. If that was your only concern, then why did you leave? I don't understand. I don't get it. I guess I'm just a confused individual, I suppose. Or maybe I'm just a jerk. I don't know. Let's see. Advocates Daily. She made a terrible decision to leave an actual company for some sort of foundation. That could be it. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe she thought that she wanted to do something different and I'm not going to decry someone for wanting to work in advocacy for something you believe in and so on. But at the same time, if you're complaining about not having a company that aligns with your values or your worldview or something, but you were working at one, and now the money's drying up. Why? Why is the money drying up? I mean, you have to have an explanation, right? I don't know. That story was bizarre. That story was a little bit bizarre. Let's see. For all those from the dog pound, FTG Cisneros. Duck dog, compartmentalization. Yeah. Just open up your association to, tech professionals. Don't have a filtration of ethnicity on the front. I mean, how much more inclusive could you get than not having an ethnicity test for being an associate of your association? I don't know. Maybe I'm just too specific. Anyway, let's do this one. This is our last story. Yes, our last story. Has the media reached the end of its DEI era? This question posed by the Columbia Journalism Review. Oh boy, guys, it's possible. Ebony Williams is here. Hi, Ebony. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good day. Nice to see you. Yeah, guys, this is the end all be all here. This is a question being asked in public. Layoffs at CBS, NBC, and Teen Vogue show a shift in newsroom priorities away from the promises of 2020. Oh. And what were those promises of 2020? Let's review. Quote, "Where's all the black journalists at now?" Unquote. Randy Jones, a freelance journalist, asked on X last week. He was referring to a wave of recent layoffs at CBS News, McClatchy, NBC News, Axios, and Teen Vogue, which was absorbed into Vogue. Jones is one of many in the industry who observed that these cuts have hit journalists of color in particular. I mean, I might have a theory, but let's go on. In late October, NBC disbanded all of its verticals dedicated to reporting on underrepresented groups, including Black, Asian, American, Latino, and LGBTQ+ groups, as first reported by Corbin Boyles at The Wrap. Shortly after, CBS laid off nearly 100 people as part of cost-cutting measures planned by its parent company, Paramount, following a merger with Skydance. Yes, because as we know, when companies merge, they never lay anyone off because of redundancies or changes in structure. Obviously, this happened because racism. As part of those cuts, CBS gutted its race and culture team and canceled its CBS Morning Plus and CBS Evening Plus streaming shows. Trey Sherman, a producer who was laid off from CBS Evenings Plus, posted on TikTok that every producer fired from his team was a person of color, while everyone granted an alternate role was white. Is that true? A veteran producer who was also laid off and spoke to CJR on the condition of anonymity confirmed that this was true. Okay, we can't verify that? All right. Noting that the team had more people of color than most CBS teams. I mean, if you say so. But here's the thing. And I have a remedy for this, or I have an avenue for a remedy for this. If you believe that you've been treated unfairly in an employment situation by your employer on the basis of your race, your gender, your religion, your ethnicity, your country of origin, there's a thing called the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title VII. And I'm being completely sincere here. If the people at CBS honestly believe and have evidence to the effect that they were fired, laid off, or elsewise on the basis of their race, you have a remedy. You have a recourse. But file it soon. There's a time limit on these things. Okay, last week, Teen Vogue laid off multiple people, including the only 2 black women writers on staff. Including? Okay, so there were others. During its transition to Vogue, quote, I can confirm that the majority of today's layoffs were women of color. There are no longer any black women working at Teen Vogue, said Lex McMenamin, Teen Vogue's politics editor, posted on Blue Sky. McMenamin was also laid off. A majority of today's layoffs were women of color. What's the majority? Okay, but specifically, how many of these majority weren't black? Versha Sharma, the editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue, also stepped down. Quote, we built a team of young, black, Asian, queer, and trans staffers. So you hired people specifically on the basis of their race, their orientation, or their gender status. That's not a feather in your cap to admit that. We built a team of young, black, Asian, queer, and trans staffers who are passionate, whip-smart, and consistently pushed impactful storytelling forward. Well, not enough to make Teen Vogue valuable enough to keep. Many of them are now without jobs. Again, if you're consolidating okay. Anyway. She wrote on Instagram post on Wednesday, that same day, a group of over a dozen Condé Nast employees confronted the company's head of human resources about the shuttering of Teen Vogue and other recent cuts, and 4 were fired as a result, Semaphor's Max Tanney reported. I think I saw a video of that. Okay, somebody could correct me. There's a video floating out there of some people confronting like the HR manager of, I believe it's Vogue or formerly Teen Vogue. And it was a very awkward video. In an email to CJR, a spokesperson for Condé Nast wrote, quote, Teen Vogue has faced ongoing challenges around scale and audience reach for some time. Rather than continuing to operate independently with limited reach, bringing Teen Vogue under the Vogue umbrella allows it to tap into a larger audience, stronger distribution, and more resources, unquote. DEI initiatives are not a panacea. Oh, no, they're certainly not a panacea. They are, in fact, the disease. Some people of color feel that quotas and representational hiring are the wrong way to ensure a diverse workspace. You don't say. The staffers laid off across these organizations were not all people of color. Oh. And there is no evidence that journalists of color were singled out for layoffs. Okay. So, you wait until this... Okay, where are we? We're here? Okay, you wait until this late in the article, after going through all these examples that you say, or the people that you interviewed say, are obviously fueled by racism, sexism, etc. And down here, there is no evidence that journalists of color were singled out for layoffs. Thanks for letting us know after everything that came before. But the elimination of verticals and positions dedicated to communities of color indicate a decisive shift in priorities at these companies away from diversity efforts. Yes, why? Let me just ask why. And do not, Columbia Journalism Review, do not tell me it's because solely of Trump's DEI executive orders. This has been going on since late 2022. This has been a trend in progress. I have chronicled it. I assume you have too. But tell us why. Why do you think? Among many other losses, this decision risks blind spots in their coverage. How so? I feel like I'm reading a TEDx talk. You can't present some statement like that, some proposition like that, without backing it up with something. It's also a stark reversal of course from the commitments to racial and gender diversity made by these same institutions just 5 years ago. Why? Why are they doing it? In 2020, NBC announced that it would push for 50% of its employees to be people of color and 50% of its employees to be women. Now, I haven't read what's said after that statement. Tell me why that commitment stated publicly is a problem. Tell me why ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why ain't nothing but a heartbreak. Tell me why. Quote, we're obviously not going to undo centuries of systemic inequality overnight, but we're not going to wait any longer to get started, and that starts today, unquote. Cesar Conde, a chairperson for NBC Universal, told NPR at the time. NBC did not respond to a request for an update on the status of this goal. Let's think about this for a second. What was the commitment? It would push for 50% of its employees to be people of color and 50% of its employees to be women. We're not going to undo centuries of systemic inequality overnight. Systemic inequality with racial and gender hiring quotas. Okay, Columbia Journal Review, whatever, Journalism Review. You have to concede why such a statement and program is problematic. At the very least, somewhere in here you're going to say, it's kind of against the law, that whole civil rights thing, to set gender and racial quotas like that. That same year, Paramount, then Viacom-CBS, added to its website that workplace diversity was, quote, a top priority and focus for all employees, unquote, while also touting CBS's race and culture unit. The statement is still up. Quote, we need to ensure that what we're doing is durable and sustained, and not just of the moment. It's easy for the next thing to show up because that's the world we live in, unquote. Bob Backish, the CEO at the time, said, quote, this is too important to get lost, unquote. Okay, well, tell me true. What has Paramount been doing since that time to affect those changes? You want to quote anything else that Paramount has stated in the past? Recent past? Oh, I don't know, a memo they put out that I covered on this show a couple months back? No? Okay. These words have proven short-lived. Well, at least up until the merger with Skydance. In September, Hannah Tamiz of Neiman Lab found that DEI efforts in journalism are in decline across the board. Why? In the years since the George Floyd protests, Tamiz noted, many newsletters and verticals that had been created to report on race, diversity, and identity have been shut down, including Politico's The Recast, Bloomberg's Equality newsletter, and the Washington Post's About Us newsletter. Why? Tell me why. Fewer newsrooms recruited at the National Association of Black Journalists and National Association of Hispanic Journalists conferences this year, and media companies are now less likely to publicly share workforce data, Tamiz reported. Of the 169 race, diversity, and equality journalism roles that she identified between June 2020 and December 2024, a third are now gone. Why? Is it, and I know it's a crazy thought, is it because none of these things have been profitable? Is it possible that none of these things actually had an ROI? Is there an ROI on DEI? Are you going to answer any of these or even surmise a cause for any of these things you're listing off? In the background of these changes looms the chilling effect of the Trump administration. Yeah, of course. Yep, guys, it all started this year. 2025. No, never mind late 2022. Never mind the affirmative action decision by the Supreme Court in early 2023. Never mind all that. No. It's Trump. It's Trump. 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 Trumpity Trump. Trumpity Trump. 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 In the background of these changes looms the chilling effect of the Trump administration, which has made clear that it views DEI efforts as illegal. Okay, well, tell me, Columbia Journalism Review, what does the law say about race and gender quotas? You know, that statement made in 2020 that you just profiled up there from NBC Universal? Before Trump became president again? What does the law say about that? In 2020, CBS set a target for unscripted reality TV programs to have casts with a racial makeup of at least 50% Black, Indigenous, or people of color, starting with the 2021 through 2022 broadcast season. Oh, they did. Sort of like strong Black lead at Netflix. Earlier this year, Paramount settled a lawsuit with a freelance writer for one of its programs who is represented by Stephen Miller's America First Legal. The lawsuit alleged that the writer was denied a staff writer job because he is a heterosexual white man. They settled? Why would they settle? Obviously, they wouldn't have done something so racist and sexist as that, would they? As part of the settlement, America First Legal said Paramount has stopped setting numerical goals related to race, ethnicity, or gender. The legal firm also revealed that Paramount, quote, removed a 5% funding bonus for programs advancing DEI goals, unquote. Complaints about a lack of representation in news coverage are long-standing. They preceded the newsroom promises of 2020, and they will not be erased by media organizations going back on those promises now. Though it is too soon to say what the impact of those most recent cuts will be, many in the media are already mourning the loss of these reporters and their coverage. And we're not going to bother with a single sentence to even speculate as to the whys and the wherefores of these events. They just happened. And obviously, through implication, it's racism and sexism rearing its ugly head again. DEI is dying. The villains have won. Oh, Trump. Anyway, that's the Columbia Journalism Review. A lot of journalism going on there. This person said this, and they think it's bad. There's no evidence that what they're saying actually happened. One sentence buried halfway through the article. Now, admittedly, I would love to know what efforts the Columbia Journalism Review did to validate that lack of evidence, just for my own edification and to the assurance of anybody reading this, but explaining yourself, trying to find a cause, what happened to the who, what, where, why, and how. Everything but the how. Oh well, there you go. So that, everybody, is DEI Deathwatch for this week in a split broadcast, which is going to be a unicorn event on my channel for, barring some major technological improvements in the service, I am never going to use this option again. Now, here's the other part that I didn't realize, is that, as far as I know, you guys didn't see the opening to this show. And there's no point in me playing the closing video for this show, the little outro, because it's just going to be a black screen. So I won't be doing that. It'll just be a cold cut in a couple minutes here. So just as a forewarning, you're not missing anything except what I'd like to do, because I'm not allowed to do it because because StreamYard. But anyway, all that aside, did you guys know I have a Discord server? I have a Discord server. I'm going to put the link to the Discord server in both chats. We'll see how this goes. So there's a link there. And that chat timed out. Okay, then there's the link there. If you see that link in the Discord, well, if you see that link, click on that link if you'd like to join the Discord server. And you'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you're not a bot. Actually watch the stream and thus earn the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is how. Just say hello, how. H-O-W, and I'll know that you watched this show. Outside of that, a couple of programming notes. So first and foremost, Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, as usual, TED Excellence with TEDx Bingo and all that good stuff. That's Thursday. Friday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, so the same time frame as this show right now, there will be a new episode of Living on Borrowed Crime, my interview series that I am attempting to resurrect from a hiatus where I interview true crime content creators about their work and the genre. And my guest this week is Beside the Dying Fire. Yes, look it up on YouTube, Beside the Dying Fire. Been around for quite a while. Even was recommended to me long ago by Matt Orchard, and I believe also Dave's Lemonade. I've been trying to get an interview with him for at least a year, but there was always some crisscrossing or scheduling, and then in my personal life, real life, kind of threw a wrench into things. So now, thankfully, it's happening. So just this last week, he released I believe, if I'm not mistaken, his longest true crime documentary yet, an hour-and-a-half feature-length documentary on a very controversial case. And as far as I know, I'll verify that on Friday, he's a one-man shop. So if you think about that and keep that in mind if you watch that documentary for even a few minutes, just realize all of it, the editing, the research, the subtitles, the special effect, all of it is just one guy working. That takes dedication, passion, and hard work. And I have some inkling of that from my own experiences. But I'll be talking to him. I don't even know what to call him. I don't even have a name for him yet. Do I call him Beside? Or maybe he's Jonathan. I don't know. Or maybe we have to give him a nickname, sort of like Stave from Stay Awake. I guess we'll find out on Friday. Either way, looking forward to that. Otherwise, everybody, thank you so much for joining me, regardless of whether it's vertical or landscape. And moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. And if you're keeping an eye on things on both streams, kudos. But even though most people, most of the time, are so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, link at the top of the chat box, guys. At least one of the chat boxes. Do I have it linked at the other chat box? I don't, but I can. Yes. Yes. Okay. So for future reference, for those of you watching on either one, it should be up there now, hopefully. But anyway, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Apologies for all the craziness over the streaming. And I hope you all have a good rest of your Monday, rest of your week. Hope to see you Thursday for TED Excellence and Friday for Living on Borrowed Crime, and perhaps on the Discord as well. And I hope that you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.